More political turmoil in Pakistan. The Prime Minister dodges a vote of no confidence and calls for a snap election, but have his actions triggered a constitutional crisis? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is Imran Khan. Predicting what's next in Pakistani politics is a near impossible task. On Sunday, Prime Minister Imran Khan was on the verge of being ejected from his post through a vote of no confidence. The opposition seemed to have the numbers to oust him, but before the vote could take place, the deputy speaker blocked it, saying it violated the Constitution. At the behest of the Prime Minister, President Arif Alvi proceeded to dissolve Parliament.
President Sahib ko
Now I have advised the President of Pakistan to dissolve the assemblies. In a democratic society, we Democrats will go to the people for elections. Elections will be held and the people will decide who they want.
awam faisla kare ki wo kisko chahti hai.
Thus, I give ruling that no confidence motion is in violation of constitution and sovereignty. It is against rules and procedures.
But while Deputy Speaker Qasim Suri said the poll would have been unconstitutional, the opposition said Suri himself had triggered a constitutional crisis by refusing to allow the vote to happen. They then filed a petition with the Supreme Court to decide whether his actions were in fact unlawful.
We have placed a petition before the court today, pleading that the President dissolving the National Assembly on the advice of the Prime Minister was unlawful and against the Constitution. It should be set aside.
So what got Pakistan to this point? Well, when Imran Khan came to power in 2018, he did so promising to end corruption and mend a broken economy. But some say he's failed to deliver on either front. Inflation remains the highest of any country in South Asia, and senior ministers in Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party are accused of corruption. The opposition claims the Prime Minister has mismanaged the economy and foreign policy, leaving Pakistan worse off. But Imran Khan says he's the victim of a foreign-backed conspiracy.
Those minutes of the conversation between our ambassador and their official, that entire conversation was shared with our National Security Council. The minutes of that meeting were confirmed, and it was confirmed that this plan to oust me was from abroad, which was interference in Pakistan's internal politics. And the basis of this no confidence vote was from abroad.
Now, we had expected Pakistan's Supreme Court to make a decision on Monday, but that ruling has been postponed. So joining me now to discuss where Pakistan and the Prime Minister go from here is Miftah Ismail. He is in Islamabad. He is Pakistan's former finance minister and the secretary of the PML-N Sindh. And from Karachi is journalist and Pakistan analyst Amir Zia. We did have the PTI's former Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Chaudhry Fawad Hussain, but unfortunately he had to pull out at the last minute. So we'll continue with our two panelists here. And let's start with this. It's a major decision, obviously, now in the hands of the Supreme Court. It's not clear when the justices might decide, but Amir, how divisive a decision could it prove to be, not just within the government, but for all of Pakistan?
One thing is that, we can't speculate what the Supreme Court is going to say and what kind of decision they are going to give. But one thing is for sure that right now Pakistani politics is very much polarized, be it not just the politicians, whether it is media, whether it is legal fraternity. You talk on any segment of society, they are polarized, divided about the action, what was taken in the National Assembly by the Deputy Speaker. There's one side of, it depends on which side of the fence you are standing. There are people and analysts and lawyers who are saying that the step taken by the Deputy Speaker is unconstitutional, and they think that the government treasury benches, they violated the law. Then there are other sides which justify that the Constitution provided that authority to the Speaker to scrap the no confidence motion, and it was followed by Imran Khan's Prime Minister's decision to dissolve the assemblies. So, I mean, depends, which side of the fence you're standing and what position do you take. But one thing is for certain, that Pakistan is in for a rough period. And it is also very certain that, whichever way the decision comes of the Supreme Court, one thing is for sure, that this polarization is not going to end very soon. Yes.
I mean, you describe it as Pakistan being in for a rough period. So how potentially dangerous is this polarization you're talking about?
It is a very challenging situation. It's challenging for not just for the government right now, we are unable to address and concentrate on the issues which really matter for Pakistan. We are unable to take up the focus on the economy, which is in dire state. Our rupee is falling, there's an energy crisis, and commodity prices are going high. So I think ideally Pakistan should have concentrated on the issues which matter for the masses. But because of this political turmoil, the focus of the government, of course, is not there. And now with the assembly stands resolved, and there's no cabinet, and everything is in limbo. So the more time we waste, it is not good for the country. Saying that, I would hold that our politicians are responsible. They are unable to, act very maturely, both the government side and the opposition side. I think politicians are unable to sort out their issues within the parliament through dialogue, through exchange of views. So that is not happening. So this is one major challenge which Pakistan faces, and I think economy is the biggest challenge for Pakistan. And I believe that Mr. Miftah Ismail, being the former finance minister, he can shed light on the kind of big challenge we face right now. And it is not just, I would say that it's the government doing. What we inherited in the past is responsible for that, and then the global situation, certainly it has changed. We have got Russia-Ukraine war, the world commodity prices are going high, so a very challenging and rough period for Pakistan.
I want to come back to issues, regarding the economy, but first, Miftah Ismail, it seemed you took some issue with what Amir Zia was describing about what happened in the lead-up to this now crisis. Go ahead. I could see you disagreed with some of the points he was making.
Well, I mean, I think, with all due respect to Amir, who's a friend, the fact of the matter is that there are no two opinions in Pakistan about the fact that what the government and the speaker did was grossly illegal and unconstitutional. And there is no two opinions about that. The only concern is whether the Supreme Court will try to undo the damage. Whether the Supreme Court will think that it can interfere in parliamentary procedures. That's the first question. And secondly, that if it takes too long, then is it fait accompli or not? Remember that our Supreme Court has actually justified for martial law, so we don't have a glorious history of the Supreme Court for upholding democracy. But that said, there is no provision absolutely in the Constitution for any speaker to declare 197 opposition legislators, about 60% of the House, to be traitors based on nothing.
But Miftah Ismail, let me just ask you very quickly then, if it is so cut and dry and there are no two sides to this decision, why didn't the Supreme Court simply issue a verdict today?
And not just today, but even yesterday, and that's what people have been wondering. But the fact of the matter is that there is this thing about whether the Supreme Court has the powers to interfere in parliamentary procedures. And the Constitution says that it should not be interfering in parliamentary procedural issues, but obviously when constitutional provisions are violated, then the Supreme Court can go into it. And like I said, I mean, our Supreme Courts have in the past even justified martial law. So you can always find rationalizations and justifications for something. But the fact of the matter, and certainly if the Supreme Court goes on for another 3-4 days, then it's a little too late. But that said, I mean, I think that I don't know of any lawyer really who said that what they did was legal. Some lawyers are saying, well, maybe that what they did was illegal, but let it go on. And so that's the most PTI, pro-PTI lawyers have said that let it go on, whatever they did was wrong, but I mean, they're going towards an election, so what? So let them move.
Amir Zia, I mean, is this a constitutional crisis or a political crisis?
I would say that it is a political crisis. Because, we have to accept this fact that our Constitution has many loopholes. And there are a lot of ambiguities in the Constitution. So it depends again which side of the fence you're standing. You can interpret a thing like, as Miftah Ismail is doing it, or some PTI lawyer is doing the other way. So I would say that that's why I'm saying that there's a lot of debate, there's a lot of ambiguity. So we can't say because he's a politician, he's representing a political party, he can speak with conviction and reject the other point of view. I totally appreciate this. But the thing is that, yes, there's an ongoing debate in Pakistan at a very massive level. At the public level, there's a discourse. You can check from the social media that there are, tens and thousands of people who are supporting this thing, that what the government has done, it is a right move. And the same way, there are opposing voices. They are very active supporters of the opposition who are saying exactly the other thing. So the point I was trying to make is that there is polarization, and at the same time, because our constitution leaves many things, there's a lot of ambiguity, so it is open to debate. That said, and the one more point that I don't think so that the deputy speaker called everyone traitor. What the point was that there is a conspiracy. There was from a foreign country was involved, and it is trying to bring a change in the government. That was the issue. And not, of course, not every lawmaker is involved in it, but yes, what we have seen is that there was allegations of lot of horse trading, that some of the government lawmakers, they were given bribes and they were offered money. Of course, I mean, nothing is proved. But yes, this is what every other Pakistani is saying. And at the same time, while buying and selling of loyalties were going on, they were pressure were applied, the allies were changed. So the entire process was not very transparent. So that is the reason it has all become so controversial. And when people saw that the alternate, we saw from the opposition camp that those very politicians, some of whom were facing many corruption cases, they are being, their names were taken as chief minister or as prime minister. Again, there was a public backlash. And that's what I'm saying, that, because of that, we saw a surge in the popularity of the PTI. And the kind of response Prime Minister got in his public rallies, I mean, that was amazing.
Okay. Miftah Ismail, I can see you disagree on just about everything you heard. I'll let you respond to Amir's analysis there.
Much of what he said is unfortunately biased and not true. There is no discussion about the fact that it is illegal. I was not referring to the fact that people agree with what Imran Khan has done. We were talking about the fact that lawyers, two deputy attorney generals have already resigned. There were rumors that the Attorney General himself will resign today. A lot of people are very disturbed with what Imran Khan is doing. A lot of people are saying that he's moving towards a very dictatorial thing. And I don't think anybody, including Amir Zia, can put his hand on his heart and say that what he did was not illegal and unconstitutional and dictatorial. So that's one thing. Then to come and say that, and not just in the federal government, but in the largest province of Punjab, there was going to be a vote. Imran Khan's man was going to lose. That's a man that Imran Khan has said was the biggest robber in Punjab. He was now making him the chief minister. And Imran Khan's man was going to lose. So Imran Khan postponed that election also illegally. Changed the governor overnight. The governor said that he asked me to postpone the assembly election, but the governor did not, so the governor was fired. Now a new governor has come. One other person of Imran Khan's party today has directly accused this one lady, Farah Gujjar, of taking huge bribes. He mentions, Amir Zia mentions that some opposition leaders having corruption cases. But he doesn't mention the many corruption cases of Imran Khan, for instance, instances that we know of Farah Gujjar taking bribes, who's acting on behalf of the... And let me just add one more. Imran Khan had 4 years, and he could have proved any cases. I was also incarcerated for setting up a terminal. You can ask Amir Zia. It was the cheapest damn terminal in all of Asia that we set up in LNG terminal. And I was jailed for 5 months on no charge. So, I mean, Imran Khan has this vendetta. He's talked about accountability and has been horribly corrupt. He's been horribly dictatorial. I mean, I can't, and then to the economy, if I may, just one other thing.
I do want to, before you go on to the economy, I do want to come back to that. Let's take that as a separate thread entirely. But first, Miftah Ismail, I just have to ask you, I mean, if all this is true, what you're saying about Imran Khan, and all the corruption, the dictatorial behavior that you accuse him of, why not just go to elections? Let the people decide if Imran Khan is wanted or not.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you. And our party had said, and our coalition actually had said that we were going to move into elections. And I know privately that we were going to move into elections between 2 and 4 weeks of coming to power. But right now the issue is slightly different, which is that you cannot allow a man to just break the constitution. Our constitution says that once a no confidence motion has been moved, that has to be voted on, and the prime minister does not, or the speaker does not have the power. If you let Imran Khan do this, then whoever is once elected can never change. I mean, this is a man who's accused people of saying, changing loyalties, that they took money. He has been trying to sway our legislators and got 5 or 6 of them to vote for him. That nobody's ever accused Imran Khan of taking money. Half of his team was actually from somebody else's parties in the last 4 years. I didn't hear Amir Zia saying that they were given money. Imran Khan just lies and lies. Here's a man who's narcissistic, who didn't want to be defeated.
But the heart of the problem, from what you're both describing, is that there are some dramatically different interpretations of what the Constitution actually says, which is what the Supreme Court is now supposed to decide on, but we're not getting a clear judgment from them. So let's go back then to the economy, since you both have commented on that. Amir Zia, just explain then, make clear what you think the issue with the economy is that's really at play here, and why Imran Khan should be judged on that.
One thing, of course, I mean, when Imran Khan came to power, journalists like I, myself, and many others used to say that economy will be the deciding factor for this government, how he performs on that front. And on that front, I would say there's been a mixed report. First of all, we have to realize that Imran Khan government inherited huge problems, from the past governments. Pakistan was at the verge of we inherited the biggest current account deficit. We were at the verge of default. So there was no honeymoon period for Imran Khan government. As soon as he came, he had to rush to Saudi Arabia, he had to rush to the IMF, and of course there has been delay. People say that Pakistan should have signed the IMF program immediately soon after he came power. So there were delays. There was some mishandling as well. But we should not ignore the kind of challenges what this government has inherited. Okay. Then there were some shocks like pandemic. Pandemic came out of the blue. So, of course, the entire world economy suffered because of that, and so did Pakistan. Right. Then there was another challenge of the high commodity prices, because Pakistan is a net importer of oil. So, of course, when the oil is touching $100 a barrel, so of course it makes things difficult for Pakistan.
Understood.
So, these are the challenges which Pakistan inherited, and I think Imran Khan government did, relatively good on many accounts. But there were reforms which he should have undertook, but because of all the politics and polarization, those things remain, I would say, unfinished agenda, although he talked a lot about it, but in that direction, he was unable to reach the government.
I mean, Miftah Ismail, really, is his management of the economy, does it constitute anything near, okay, it doesn't constitute the high treason that the opposition has actually accused him of, but how bad is it?
Well, I think Amir is right that when he came, there were challenges, without a doubt. One challenge, the biggest challenge was that we had left a $19 billion current account deficit that year. This year, he's going to have a $20.5 to $21 billion current account deficit. The current account deficit actually will be higher this year. We will have the highest trade deficit in our history this year, about $45 billion. We will have the highest imports in our history, about $75 billion. We will also have the highest budget deficit of 4.6 trillion rupees. This is Imran's first year. We had the highest budget deficit as a percentage of GDP, and every year he's made a record. His tax collection has actually gone down as a percentage of GDP from where I had left.
But does all this equate to justifying taking him out of office? Okay, so...
No, it does not. Okay. So his mishandling of the economy is obviously not treason, and the courts will tomorrow decide whether the subversion of the Constitution constitutes just an illegality or high treason or whatever. I don't wish to call anybody a traitor or a treasonous, but which is what Imran Khan does. He's played the religious card. He's been talking about Amar bil Maroof and all these verses from the Quran, notwithstanding his history. This man I mean, he's just played the religious card, calling other people traitors, giving certificates of patriotism. That's not what politics is all about. I mean, when he goes in the Western countries and he talks a good game and he comes across as a very liberal, sensible man.
Okay,
But then when he goes
Miftah,
on,
though, I mean, Miftah Ismail, it sounds, you say it's not good politics, but a lot of people would argue that's just politics. That's how it is often played in Pakistan. Let me move on to some other issues, though, because there are a number, some of his justification, Imran Khan's justification, is, of course, the foreign interference he believes that has played a role in the attempt to oust him. Amir Zia, do you think alienating the U.S. at this point and playing this foreign conspiracy card, is it working for or against Imran Khan? And how does it affect potentially his strained relationship with the ever-important military in Pakistan?
First of all, when Imran Khan mentions that there's a foreign conspiracy and he's bringing some proofs as well, he's showing it to the people, and the same thing was taken to the National Security Council of Pakistan, where the military leadership is also there. So one can debate about what kind of statement they should. Imran Khan again has a different interpretation and the opposition has a different interpretation. But what I would say, whenever Imran Khan talks about independent foreign policy, I would say it gets a popular reaction from the Pakistani masses because, of course, Pakistan wants that its foreign policy should be independent. And when Imran Khan mentions that how America has used Pakistan in its various wars, from the Afghan war against Soviet Union, then again against the Taliban, again that comes true. And so, I mean, I would say it is a popular stance what Imran Khan is taking. But it becomes very unpopular when it comes to the ruling elite, because our ruling elite is very much dependent on Americans, and they want to have good relations. And obviously, every sensible person would want to have good relations with Europe and the West. But I mean, it depends how. I mean, our ruling elite has a mentality that whatever the West says, we have to abide by that. And there's a reason. They speak their language, their kids study over there, their families are settled over there. We are doing a lot of business with Americans and the European Union. So when Imran Khan takes a firm stand, the interest of that ruling elite gets hurt. And they are not prepared that, we can have a strange relation with United States. And they also forget this one thing, that already when it comes to regional politics and strategic politics, Americans and Pakistani interests no longer converge. There's a lot of divergence in a core interest of both countries. America is pushing for contain China, which is against Pakistan core interest because China is our strategic partner. America is working to give hegemony to Indians. India is their strategic partner now. And again, it doesn't work in the interest of Pakistan. Americans are not happy with Pakistan's nuclear and missile program. So these are the core issues which are many of our ruling elite people. They forget that even if Pakistan wants to have good relations, and they are not looking, I mean, if even Imran Khan has not embarked on the trip to Moscow, even then Pakistani and American relations are not ideal. Okay. And of course, because Americans are trying to influence Pakistan because we are an important, regional country, and because of our strategy, and there's still turmoil in Afghanistan is not that, I would say, peaceful. So Americans are trying to influence us. They want to distance us from China. And they want to, they want Pakistan to transform Pakistan into a flying state,
We're down to our last minute and a half, so let me ask Miftah Ismail. I mean, does the opposition sympathize then with the ruling elite, as Amir Zia was describing?
Imran is the very personification of the ruling elite. He is the man who came to Pakistan along with his, came to power along with his people, actually stopped China-Pakistan economic corridor in its track. I mean, that was the biggest project of the Belt and Road Initiative. His ministers badmouthed in the CPAC project all the time, and CPAC has already been stopped. We are all for an independent foreign policy, but not to have a stupid foreign policy. Imran Khan has managed to anger both America and China at the same time, which is quite a feat. He's also managed to anger both Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Malaysia at the same time, which is also quite a bit of a feat. And the reason mostly is because of his ego. He's very petulant. And the fact, I think, that Joe Biden didn't call him after became president really bothered him, although when he had gone to see Trump and when he came back, he considered that to be a triumph equal to winning the World Cup. All his cabinet was there, garlands in hand, congratulating him for winning some World Cup because he had managed to meet Trump. Now, Biden doesn't call him, so he gets all petulant and all angry, and he sends his national security advisor to Washington, D.C. twice to call. America may or may not like him, but that's not relevant. I mean, our movement to remove him is because we want to get rid of this man who's completely ruined our economy, who's isolated Pakistan. India took away Kashmir. All he could do was to rename one road to Srinagar Highway.
Miftah Ismail, you're going to have the last word. I'd like to thank you and Amir Zia so much for being with us on this edition of The Newsmakers, and I'm sure we'll be checking in with you soon as that Supreme Court ruling is revealed. Thanks to our viewers as well for tuning in. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter @the_newsmakers and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.